What do you remember about Christmas? Your earliest memories. Let's take a moment and play the tape. I'm going to guess that for some of you, it's lights, maybe a gift, a meal, a family trip, maybe something scary, maybe someone laughing. To be honest, I don't have too many memories of Christmas when I was a kid. Apparently my brain dumped a whole lot of stuff one of those times I went off to college. Had to make room for weird facts about starfish, spiral galaxies, and trigonometry, something I have no idea. But I do wonder how many of you remember church in your earliest Christmas memories. Did you go to church? Anybody? Some of you, most of you. The answer is always just yes. Yeah, right. That's what you do for your pastor, right? Okay. Now, so some of you did. Mom and dad probably bundled you off, right? Just carried you and your siblings over their shoulders. Maybe the church was old. Maybe it was full of people like this one. Maybe there were fresh greens laid out. Maybe you remember carols and candles. I do remember something, though. I remember when I was a kid going to church on Christmas Eve. My family sat with my grandparents. It's a good story. I'll tell that some other time. But I remember also having friends there, and they were all sitting with their families. Sometimes we get to sneak out and run around while the grown-ups were doing stuff. Sometimes we'd sneak into the break room and pour cups of coffee. And by coffee, I mean an inch of raw sugar, half a cup of half and half, and a splash of coffee on top, just like a grown-up, right? Got to start them young, people. So my church had a tradition growing up. Every Christmas, the Reverend Ken McLean would tell a new special Christmas time story. Each year, Ken would talk about the trip that he had made, one of the many trips he'd made up to the North Pole. There, along with a strange and unusual collection of volunteers, he'd tell stories about how he loaded up helicopters with enormous bags of toys, and on Christmas Eve, he and his college roommates headed out all over the world to deliver them. Even at 6 years old, I knew that my minister was lying to me. I didn't care. These stories were magical, not just because everything that could go wrong apparently did, which was just hilarious to me as a kid, but my little kid memories of my parents holding hands and laughing until they cried. This is my favorite memory of them. And this memory may be why I am a minister. Christmas, community, magic. These will always be linked for me. And for me, Christmas is about stories. Stories we tell about community, about hope, about life. Starting about 3,000 years ago, and over a period of about 1,000 years, groups of Jews began writing down stories. Some were histories, some were myth, some were morality plays, some were rules to live by. Most were all of the above. Scholars believe that these stories had many versions. The stories were largely dependent on the audience, dependent on the season, dependent on the teller. What had once been a living, vibrant, and evolving collection of stories was, once upon a time, frozen, captured, written down by a scribe. And weird as it may be to imagine, we have no idea what version we have. I often wonder what the other versions might have been like. If there was once something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe version, but I'm Moses, or maybe one told by David Sedaris, It's embarrassing that people talk like this. I think I'll be a low-key kind of prophet. Or maybe a version told by Salvador Dali. I know, I'll melt the Red Sea and fly away on a beetle. Seriously, my friends, we have no idea. But it does raise the question, what if we have the boring version? Now that I think about it, questions like these may be why my evangelical neighbors don't invite me over for Christmas parties. When it comes to these old stories, especially the Christian stories, too often the conversation ends just when it's getting interesting. Questions about truth and accuracy and eternity just get in the way. We stop listening. We cling to our facts and our criticisms and deliberately miss the invitation to mystery and wonder and awe. We get stuck on details and lose track of the ancient reminders that while our world is what it is, it doesn't have to be that way. We gloss over the lessons about love being more important than strength, forgiveness being more important than power, connection being more important than wealth. We missed that back in the Roman Empire, that these ideas were new. People didn't talk this way back then. People don't often talk like this in today's empire either. But this was weird stuff. And so, in the spirit of making Christmas weird for my Christian friends, which is totally part of why I do this job, I am tempted to add, what does it matter if these stories are true or not? Is love true? Is hope? Is joy? My friends, what if truth was never the point? What if the truth makes it actually harder to get? Makes the point harder to see, to grasp, to grow from? What if the point was always something else? What if the point, bear with me, what if the point was just inspiration this whole time? This is my Christmas message for you. Whatever Christmas was, whatever the story might yet be, for tonight, for right now, you are asked to pause, to become still, to listen, to dream. Here you are, midwinter, when the days are at their shortest, when the work of the year is done, when you gather together in this odd little place, our historic church, when you sing and tell stories, your face is lit by your laughter, by your longing, by your love, by your light. However you got here, whatever your path, together we have singled out this night from the rest of the year. We have set it aside as a night to recall those old stories, to invoke them, to give them space, to be lifted up, to fall into a once upon a time when anything was possible, when everything changed, when this became that, when what was became what might yet be, when down became up, when the margins became the center, when darkness gave way to light, when love was born, when everyone everywhere was offered the chance to understand themselves as connected by a single thread of hope, and filled and refilled with the possibility of change and the certainty that tomorrow could be more, could be better than yesterday ever was. To be inspired by a tomorrow that we get to imagine together, a tomorrow that we get to make together. And maybe that was what this night was all about all along. Isn't that wonderful? Merry Christmas.
Visit us at uusg.org.